Hello and welcome to Redeeming Thunder. This is chapter 39, part 1 of the Ordained Spouse series. Now, if you've been following this prophetic word, there is a prophetic dream that I received regarding going through thresholds as part of the journey of the divine alignment. I had a dream that there was a woman who attended a physical therapy or some kind of appointment that had, then a therapist was there, okay, working on her body to heal her body. 2 family members were beside her suddenly, and she was explaining she wants treatment she's going to receive some treatment, and she called it sonobello. So it had something to do with laser treatment, okay? Beside her on the right was someone that was holding her clothes because she had changed into some kind of gown or changed some kind of workout outfit, and was holding her purse and her outfit, okay? And the therapist comes in and he says, "Are you ready? You know, we're running out of time. We got to come before the stinkers come," something along the lines. And so she says, "Okay." He's like, "Meet me around, go through this door," which the door was open, that the one he came in. He's like, "And meet me around the corner." And when she looked through the door, there was gym equipment, okay? And she said, okay, and so she had to go to the bathroom first. So that individual that was holding her, another family member, was holding her purse and her clothes, right? She had to change back into her clothes, and she went to the bathroom, and that person gave her stuff back, okay? And then she started to head out through that door, and the threshold is the door frame. And when she walked out that door, there was a bright light that showed up towards the right. Okay, something's going to happen to you where you're going to need to walk through certain doors, and certain doors are already going to be opened, okay? And the person holding the garments, in real life, okay, I'd experienced something where it is like laser treatment to heal, have some more blood flow, okay? And the dream became reality because I saw the same individual that was holding the purse and the clothing was someone that did need help during the time that door was opening, but it was a bit of a distraction, okay? Because that individual wanted to be the decipher of the destiny of that person, okay? And they wanted to be the deciding factor. They wanted to be the one to hold on to all the decisions for that person. So it's very controlling and manipulative, okay? So that woman needed to go in to the bathroom and get delivered from all of that. When someone goes to the bathroom in a dream, it has a lot to do with being delivered, okay? Before entering and going through the threshold. So I have been thinking about that dream quite often because we're talking about individuals going through the threshold. And the reason why it's a future ordained spouse is because this woman that shares her encounters is starting to share information that is quite connected to the series and the chapters of the revelations of what occurs. Okay, so on a basically appointed time frame. Okay, so your future ordained spouse is going to be someone who wants to know about you. They're interested in what's your favorite colors. They're interested in making you smile. They're interested in hearing what you have to say. And they're interested in making you feel special and making you laugh and making you feel special, okay? So as I'm reading these notes here, it's also evident that the individual wants to be part of your healing journey, okay? Wants to make you feel comfortable and welcomed all the time, okay? And he does not see all of your imperfections as a hindrance, okay? He is like down to earth, okay, and humble. And so that's the person that Yahusha is going to bring. He's going to try to bring someone that can relate with you and go through the healing process with you without shaming you. This is part of the journey. And that word was given to me on 4/14/2025, which is more so prophetic confirmation. Prophetic confirmation that as you are walking into thresholds, be careful who you have around you, because some people do not want to see you be elevated. Some people do not want to see you ascend. Some people want to manipulate and be controlling as they've done before in your life, okay? Some people, it seems that they're there to assist, but really, they need a lot of helping hand without putting in the work to transform into Yahusha's image. They're wanting, like holding the purse and holding the clothing. They want your garments. They want your abundance. Okay? And they want to stay there as a monitoring spirit. And once you start trying to set your boundary and state you are in a journey of divine alignment, they start insulting all of a sudden, okay? All of a sudden, harsh words come out. All of a sudden, they say they have more discernment than you. And that is incredibly not true, okay? They don't get in the secret place that you do. So you need to understand that where you're going and the threshold that you're walking through, you cannot bring everybody with. And I know this by this dream given to me on 6/13/2025. And again, it involves the same family member. And again, it involves going places. Okay? So this is the dream. I had a dream something occurred. So I had got in a very large airplane and I began steering it. And it was very heavy. even just a little twitch of the steering wheel would cause a huge significant move of the airplane. Okay, I had to fly low to see the city, and there was a man helping me, but he left. There was a man helping me on the other pilot seat, but he had left. And suddenly this family member had come from the seating and had went into the pit. I don't know what it's called. And the pilot's, okay, section, and sat next to me. And she had held onto the gear. That my hand was already on the gear. And then she was helping me hold it steady, it seemed like. And she held on it, and it tapped higher. Now we were in the clouds. And then she then took her hand off, and I held on the middle, not edge, and she put her hand on top of mine. Okay. And what looked like she was supporting the shifting by holding my hand, and I felt I had more control. And it was easier to steer it. And at that time, it felt less burdensome to steer a giant plane that I just basically learned how to fly, right? Then I tapped it to the right a bit and lower because I couldn't see. We were way too high in the clouds. And we nose dove a little bit to get into the city. And she says, "Be careful, what are you doing?" And I said, "We need to get closer to the city." I says, "You see, we need to get closer to the city because we need to be able to see the people who we need to pick up. And we need to be close enough so that we can see them." So the mission was to pick up people. Okay? So that was the dream. And so when I was doing some research and I was doing some internal thinking in real life, this individual was causing some type of influence that was swaying away from the actual mission. Trying to anyway. And then the individual trying to go back into the flying closer to the city was trying to stay on task. But that individual looked like they were holding on and assisting with steering the plane correctly, was really actually a manipulative action. It was really someone that was controlling, trying to control your airplane, your journey, your life journey. Okay? And at first it's going to look very helpful. At first it's going to look like they sat with me. That's good. I need some support. You're going to feel like you need it. Okay? But again, looking at it into a biblical sense, someone else's hand means external influences. If someone else has their hand on the shift handle, it could suggest an external influence or the involvement of another person in initiating or controlling a change or transition in your life. Okay? It could highlight the impact that someone else, whether positive or negative, is having on your ability to make choices or direct your life. Dreaming of an airplane could represent traveling in one's personal life or traveling ministry. Consider the positioning and the size of the aircraft. On a positive sense, dreaming that an airplane is flying or soaring could indicate being taken away to a different place, depending on the destination. An airplane could represent operating in the gifts of the spirit. In the aircraft, the dream is a jet. It could represent a powerful or fast progressing ministry. Okay. A jet or a fighter plane could represent a church or individual person. Negative. Dreaming of an airplane may also represent a lack of prayer or preparation if the plane is flying too low. This position of the airplane may symbolize not following or being led by the Spirit. If a plane is flying near electrical lines, it could represent danger in one's ministry. Okay, so Habakkuk 2:3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Psalms 32:8. I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. Deuteronomy 31:8. And Yahuwah, he it is that doeth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. Airplanes means in a biblical sense. If you want more information, follow evangelistjoshua.com. The trajectory of or momentum of planes, ideas, or projects that you wish to get off the ground. Positively, airplanes are a reflection of successful experiences that are processing everything coming together to ensure a desired controlled outcome. Negatively, airplanes may reflect the realization, plans, ideas, or projects that aren't working out as expected. Everything seems to be coming together to ensure an outcome that can't be stopped. An airplane may reflect frustration or jealousy at seeing someone else succeeding or gaining momentum with their plans. Not liking experiencing someone doing something you can't do or unable to stop. Okay, so you are in your purpose and your calling, and someone is jealous of your progress. And during that time in real life, that individual's life was going in shambles. Car breaking down, no money, no job. I'm talking about shambles. Health dwindling, other members of their family health dwindling, finances dwindling, and you were there because you felt empathy for them, okay? You felt that they needed some support, some prayers, and some help, and you physically helped them, okay? Because of the way you are. You're a very kind person. But that involvement involved them trying to change the trajectory of your life. And when I'm saying that is real life scenario, they were trying to negatively influence who I could have in my life. And the way they were trying to is by telling me who to not have in my life and who to have in my life. And they were also going to the other people and trying to sway them away from basically a miscommunication of and involving their opinion on every aspect of my life, my marriage, my children, the prodigal children, and influencing them negatively so that they cannot come or they shouldn't want to come back. Okay? Not only that, she was wanting to enforce comments from the past and rehashing past when you are not that person or wherever that person, but they all of a sudden, when you decide to put your boundaries and say, I'm following what the Most High says to do, and if he says not to give up on the prodigals, that they're returning, they're going to return. Okay? I'm going to add certain things in my life. It could be including a new pet in your life. And if that's setting them off and they don't want you to have abundance, they don't want you to have that, you need to understand that you only consult you and your spouse, or you only consult you and the Most High if you're single, of what you bring into your life, okay? So the other thing is, there was a lot of negative projection, okay? And it had a lot to do with keeping Isaacs and having idols and trying to project those beliefs, okay, into my life. And I kept setting boundaries, saying, no, this is not the way. Ultimately, this is the warning. You cannot bring those individuals that have malintentions for your life, or their own discernment, which they did not consult the Most High for your life. They're not a prophetess. They're not a prophet, okay? Be careful who you have in your ear, okay? If you're having to set your boundaries so much, like continuously, like 15 times in a month towards that person, I don't think that person is supposed to go with you through that threshold. And I feel like that should be very obvious, okay? So be aware of that. That when you, it's kind of giving the example of, thank you, Ruach HaKodesh, for giving me this insight. When Moses had to go up to the mountain, if you watch chapter 38, part 4, or is it part 3, excuse me, it has a lot to do with the Shekinah cloud, okay? It has a lot to do with going up the mountain and receiving insight from the Most High. You cannot bring people that are not righteous, that are not in Yahusha's plans for you, up the mountain. Why? Do you remember the scriptures? I will put it here. There came a time where Moses went up the mountain with leaders, with elders, and then he went up the mountain with just a few leaders, which I believe was Joshua and someone else. And then Joshua even had to stay there. And then he had to go up the mountain just all by himself. Okay? So that gives an example that that people that go with initially, those can be immediate family members and doctors and therapists, right? Okay? And trusted friends. Then you're going to reach a level where you're going up higher. You're ascending higher. You need personal time with the Most High. You can't bring friend enemies. You can't bring someone that's jealous of you. I hope that's obvious, okay? Then you're going to go up, and you're going to go with just the most immediate family members. Okay, so you're still interacting with your immediate family members and the doctors. Maybe not even. Okay, then it's going to get to the point where you're going to go by yourself, and you need to be, it was just Moses going up there. He did not go with anybody else, and that's when he was illuminated. Remember, it looked like glitter. It looked like he was the presence of the Most High. The face of Yahuwah shined upon him. When he came down the mountain, he was like glowing. Okay? There's something supernatural that's going to occur to the chosen ones. And it has a lot to do with being very, very picky on who goes up the mountain with you. Okay? Using high discernment in this hour. And what I'm realizing is going up the mountain into the Shekinah cloud, that metaphor has a lot to do with going through the threshold. It's like one and the same. And what you're about to do right now, you're about to walk through the most pivotal moment of your life. Okay? You can't have any distractions. So, because part of it is a ministry that's awakening in this hour. Okay? It's being revealed in this moment. Okay, some of you, for those that's for an Ordained Spouse series, okay, part of the threshold is you encountering your future ordained spouse, and or you being involved with your future ordained spouse, and or you starting a ministry with your future ordained spouse. Okay? Now, when I got into the secret place on 6/30/2025, what's happening is that you're receiving new garments. There's going to be a whole revamp, and you're physically going to be able to see it on your body. Your body, you're going to look different. Okay? You're going to speak differently. And you're going to glow. And it has a lot to do with walking through that threshold. And now, okay, upon the threshold, this relates to chapter 38 as well. The future ordained spouse and you had some separation time. It wasn't where one was fighting with the other or anything like that. It just has something to do with schedules clashing, and or someone not at that workplace, not at that location, not at that shop or that store that they work at, okay, etc. Because they had taken a, their leave, right? Okay, so now coming on back, there's a whole new insight. There is something occurred to the future ordained spouse, and they feel that something was missing, and that person was you. Okay? Now Yahuwah is wanting to talk. So he says, okay, so now let me talk. And this is why I knew it was a Ordained Spouse series prophetic word, is because of what he explains further on, okay? Did you recall he said, let's get back to exercise, or let's get back to, he's your study buddy at the college. Or he said, let's get back to work. Let's say you guys are training at work, okay? And you guys got sidetracked on conversation. He knows that you guys can go on and on talking about different subjects. He notices that you both have great commodity, and he enjoys talking to you. He's super excited to support you and train you. Okay, so that gives you a clue. It's someone that's training you. Maybe it's at work. what I was trying to say to you is you already been encountering him. You already been encountering him. Okay. He adores you. He's super excited to train you. Why? Because it's a little bit more one-on-one. Okay, so now he says super endorsements here. So then I go in and I research what that means, okay? So this is a definition. An endorsement is a statement or action that shows you support or approve of something or someone. It could be a professional endorsement, okay? Where people who know your work and can vouch for your skills, achievements, and character, okay? The act of saying that you approve of or support something or someone is an endorsement. Then Yahuwah says, endorsements abound. Okay, so an endorsement occurs when a user of something, like a negotiable instrument, signs his or her signature on the back of the instrument. Okay? It could also be a signal, a document change, grant approval through a signature, or express open support for an individual idea or initiative. Okay. To exist in abundance or increase. Then he says, apologies accepted. So there's an apology that's going to come. Okay? So as you guys are interacting, he may misunderstand you. Okay? Here and there. He's learning how to communicate with you. He's learning how to see the world through your eyes. You're learning how to see the world through his eyes, his experiences. You guys had different journeys before you guys have interacted. So it's going to be where maybe your interpretation may be different than his. Can I give you an example? Maybe you guys are at the same gym, okay? And what's heavy for you is really not heavy for him, okay? Or maybe you guys are, he's training you, and what has something to do on the computer, and you could be very, electronically savvy, okay? And he is not. And so then you're showing some insight, and he's kind of like, no, we can do it this way. And you're like, no, let's do it this way. And you guys are both communicating, and there could be a little bit of a clash, not in a disrespectful manner. It's just different, okay? For example, you could interpret some type of exercise as boot camp level, okay? But that individual could have experienced what the definition of boot camp on an entirely higher elevated level. So it could be someone that what you call boot camp was a 1-hour session, okay? But it was very intense exercise session, and you're trying to explain to that person, kind of had that vibe, right? That individual could be like, how could that be anything close to, how could that be if what he has experienced could have been something like maybe of military grade, and that boot camp was probably 3-6 months straight and around the clock. Do you see how it would be completely opposite experiences? And this person could experience boot camp as in playing soccer, boot camp, volleyball, 1 week, 2 week boot camp, lacrosse, sport, boot camp, okay? They get to go home. They're not living at the site, but every day they're training. And it goes on an intense training for, let's say, 2 months or whatever, okay? So then there's some apologies that come to play, because it's kind of like, it could be maybe feeling like not heard not misunderstood, and then that person is very caring and will be like, oh, I see your point of view. I see how that is another angle to it. That person is open to hearing it, and also compassionate. Okay, so now continuing to pray in the spirit, all of a sudden he says, Seapa sabapaka. Okay, so that means branch of Jesse, to cover, to satisfy, to pass over. Okay, and that word is H5589. So this is very important, okay? The word depicts the large spread boughs of stately tree limbs that fork outward to form a protective canopy. By extension, it evokes ideas of abundance, prominence, and a sphere of influence wide enough to give refuge to creatures that dwell or lodge within its shade. Okay, so it's talking about a branch, a very important branch. Now, it's talking about someone. Okay, so now, divine sovereignty over nations. Luxuriant branches stand only because the waters made it grow. Ezekiel 31:4. However glorious the boughs, their source is outside themselves. Ezekiel reminds rulers and peoples alike that political greatness is derivative, not ultimate. Birds and beasts find safety under the branches, illustrate how Yahweh intends authority to provide covering, not oppression. Okay, so these are examples of talking about a branch, okay? Ezekiel 31:8 situates a tree in the garden of Yahuwah, linking imperial prompt with Edenic imagery. The lush boughs call to mind humanity's original vocation to cultivate and guard creation, a task forfeited in Adam yet ultimately realized in Yahusha, the shoot from the stump of Jesse. Okay. Now, those who recognize the source of life-giving growth will flourish. Those who forget him will find their branches dried and scattered. Okay, so now, continuing to pray in the spirit. Samak, I sustain thee. Alasa. Alas, jaw-dropping to be admired. Your future ordained spouse is totally noticing you. Okay? It also means to be gaped at, to be delighted in. It means to or unto, and may describe a physical or mental motion toward a behavioral effort, an evolutionary one to express determination or purpose. Okay? It also means to be, looks like, to be viewed, to be blinded by, to delight in. When it says blinded by, it literally means blinded by everything else and can only see you. That's the interpretation of it. The metaphysical meaning of lasha is bursting forth, cleaving, fountain, for looking upon, for anointing the eyes. Okay, so awakening. Okay, so it means Yahuwah is anointing the eyes of your future ordained spouse. Hallelujah. Okay, that is immensely pivotal. Okay? Something is occurring when you're walking through the threshold. More is beyond maybe your divine purpose in life. It's also the future ordained spouse seeing you in his life. Okay? seeing cannot unsee you. It's, you've entered a different dimension. You've entered a new chapter in your life. Okay, so now a little bit more on when it's talking about what it means when someone has hungry eyes for you, you know, delighted in you. They're just kind of stargazed, I guess. I researched a little bit more on what that means, and okay, and I researched a little bit more because the woman that she gives me her real life occurrences, okay, she stated that the potential future ordained spouse, his eyes, his pupils enlarged when he looked at her at one point. Okay, and she wanted to know what that entailed. Okay, and so that's when I researched what does it mean when a man's pupils dilate. And this means, studies have found that heterosexual men's pupils dilate more in response to erotic imagery or of a woman. When stimulated by the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system, it shortens to enlarge the pupil. Your pupils first dilate. Okay, then let's continue here where it says the second is by stopping the signals of the parasympathetic nerves going to the splinter muscles of the pupil. This is triggered when you need or want to focus. So it means when someone is getting in sync with the other person, the pupils will dilate. Okay? And sometimes interpersonal interactions, they will then dilate. Studies have found that administration of oxytocin, a hormone associated with bonding and trust, enhances pupil responses to emotional expression, suggesting increased sensitivity to social cues. Pupil dilation synchrony between people has been linked to better teamwork and mutual attraction, reflecting shared arousal states. This phenomenon, sometimes referred to as pupil mimecy or pupil contagion, aligns with other synchronizations such as heart rate. It all goes to show that so much of the connection attraction is subconscious. So something is occurring subconsciously where the future ordained spouse can't help but express these physical attributes of being attracted to you, just like the past prophetic word said that was going to happen. So this is a confirmation word. Okay. So it also can mean, dilation of the pupils could also mean love. Okay, so now the hungry look, okay, often signifies a strong desire or attraction, not literal hunger. It can be interpreted as a sign of intense admiration or even a potential romantic or sexual interest. The specific meaning can vary depending on the context relationship between the individuals. Okay, so now subdates. This is really important. You need to listen to this right now. It's going to be a lot sooner. It's going to be a lot sooner than you think. And then he says, him calling on you. So I researched, what does calling in on you mean? Because that's what he said, him calling in on you. When a guy says he's calling on you, it generally means he's going to visit or pay you a short visit. Okay, it's a more formal way of saying he's planning to come see you, or that he's going to ask for something from you. Remember the Bridgerton show when they call upon the girl, and the potential prospect for marriage, they come and they want to visit the woman, the young woman, at her home. Okay, and they have tea, and then they spend time at the ball. Okay, kind of like that. Basically, it suggests he intends to come to your location, perhaps for a casual chat or to spend time with you. Calling on can mean asking someone for help, advice, or a favor. Calling in versus calling on. When calling in typically refers to notifying someone of an absence. Okay? Calling on refers to a visit or request. So yes, Yahuwah is trying to say here that he is bringing this matter. He's expediting it. Okay? It's accelerating here. You've going through the threshold is doing so much, okay? And then he says, Ayin Soma Samak, means divine alignment, wholeness in your body, okay? Samak means I sustain you. Asi stands for the Queen Esther's, okay? It means myrtle tree, but it also means Hadassah, which is Esther's true name, Jewish name. Then he says, Ka Saya Kasi Maka, which means in this manner, shadow, okay? So it means shade. It means the wings of Yahuwah covering you. Kasi means to overflow. Maka means a ministry. It also means expanding stakes from a tent. So that means that you are going to be, it's growing. Something's evolving where either your ministry or you're going to have one, and it's going to be, he's giving you more access. He's trusting you with more. Thank you so much for joining me on my Supernatural Diaries, and I will see you in the next video. Shalom.